Hi, my name is Gwen Smith, Senior Product Marketing Manager at Litera. Thank you for joining us for this case study discussion on automating the legal transaction process. We're here to take a deep dive in the way law firms and legal teams manage their deals. Over the last few decades, we've embraced technology to reduce costs and improve turnaround time. We use tools to help identify case law precedents, develop and style documents, and automate the proofreading and cleaning of documents. But when it comes to moving documents along within the deal, the process has been very slow, expensive, and manual. We're going to focus today on how IT, KM, and innovation teams have begun to modernize the process with our transaction management platform. So let's meet our panelists. We're joined today by Avanish Marwaha, CEO of Litera, and Haley Altman, GM for Litera Transaction Management and founder of Doxly.
Hello.
Hi, it's nice to be here.
Before we dive into the case study, let's start at the top. Avanish, can you give us a little bit of detail about the vision for Litera?
Yeah, happy to do so. We view our business as one that is primarily focused on helping people focus on what matters. And when we look at the word people, we're very focused on that word because not just our customers, our lawyers, but it's about everybody in our business that we interact with, from our employees and their careers and their jobs, all the way to the lawyer and making sure they're focused on what's important to them. For us specifically, in legal, we believe there's three things that we have a focus or vision on, and that's, can we help our customers retain clients with higher quality of work on time? Can we help our customers increase realization rates and profitability by reducing time spent on unbillable tasks and low-value work and helping them focus on high-value tasks? And then finally, can we increase end-user happiness with software? And having been a former lawyer, it's really important to me that we build technology and software that my friends can use and brag about with their peers, because at the end of the day, if we're not solving true problems for end users, I think we've missed the boat here. I think we've done a really good job in the last few years to do that. And I think the stuff that we're talking about today further strengthens that vision of focusing on the end user.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's absolutely an exciting time. And you mentioned a little bit about building technology and software to solve these key problems that everyone's facing and simplify the workflow. And I'd like to dig in a little bit here, is the workflow as it ties into what Litera is doing with their vision, and how we could expand on that. Specifically to the fact that Litera acquired Workshare in July and only a few weeks later, Doxly. As a business, can you give us some insight into how that expands upon the vision for Litera?
Sure. We look at the last 3 years of our thesis and how we've moved forward in business. We've been heads down and bringing together a bunch of brands in the document lifecycle space and simplifying the workflow around document drafting. Lawyers and users were routinely working on multiple toolbars and ribbons to go from first draft to final delivery. And with the acquisition of Workshare, we were able to get Transact, which was doing really well in the UK and European market around banking and finance and transaction management around it. And we recognized that we were able to broaden our workflow from drafting to transaction management. And we're fortunate enough to find Doxly right behind it that allowed us to expand quickly into the US markets and more use cases around transaction management. So we've taken that concept of simplifying the document lifecycle, and we're going to apply that same efficiency and improvements to the transaction management space, being able to provide one solution that covers numerous case studies along with geographical expansion. So now we can cover every single practice group throughout the globe for a single law firm.
Got it. So it's not just to go deep into one segment of deal management, but also to go broad and make sure that Litera has a global presence and can help multiple firms in multiple practice areas around the world.
Yeah, hopefully our customers will see that all of our investments and growth is doing two things. Either it's broadening our offering that's natural to our current business, right? So if we are a document lifecycle specialist with software, it makes sense to move that story into transaction management, which is very document heavy. Mm-hmm. And if we can extend that workflow through that space, that's great. The next thing you should see us do as a customer is that we go deep in technology. So it's not about just putting our feet in the water with Transact from Workshare, but by getting Transact and Doxly, we can expand and broaden our reach and then go really deep into our offering. We're not happy with just doing one or two features and saying we have encapsulated that space, whether that's proofreading or repairing documents and now transaction management. We want to be seen as the full-on leader in that space, and that only comes from deep understanding and offering.
Okay. And how did the two come together, Doxly and Workshare Transact?
It's a pretty easy path forward for us. I think we'll hear from Haley here shortly about that. But they come together in a simple way, right? Each product set on its own was excelling in the features and functions they built in front of them. So being either Europe-centric and covering the needs of those markets that are very unique, or being in the U.S. market focusing on the needs here. Those are things like document, signature acceptance that are electronic-based, right? So e-signature is okay in the U.S. It may not be okay in the U.K. So that focus allows Doxly to grow really well in the U.S. on its own. Transact on its own was doing really well with Mercury laws and banking and finance in Europe, but neither one of those brands on its own could probably do a global reach. Coming together and bringing that product set together, we can now have a global solution in this space.
Mm-hmm. And Haley, what about from your point of view?
Yeah. I mean, I think when I think about transaction management as a whole, the goal is to find a way to have a single solution that can be an end-to-end workflow management tool across multiple different transaction types with a global reach. And I think when you think about how Litera is bringing all the pieces together from the benefits that we're seeing in Transact and Doxly into Litera's transaction management solution, that's the focus. We're going to take that idea of kind of end-to-end workflow and really make it a reality in a global way across different transaction types that wouldn't be possible if you tried to kind of continue it on your own.
Was there, and this question is primarily for Avanish, was there a special moment that inspired the move into the transaction management segment versus any other space?
I'm not sure if it was an inspiration, but it solidified this investment for us and the desire to move into it more quickly. Fortunate or not fortunate, in May we were able to go through a transaction where our initial investors, K1, realized their investment and sold the entity off to HG. And being the CEO of the business, I was involved in the transaction at a very intimate level and got to experience what a deal of this size feels like from a client's perspective and what are the tasks that we go through. Things that we learned along that way was this is a very paper-driven exercise, time-intensive, error-prone, super expensive, and the overall experience is, from my perspective, very outdated. You're not allowed to have transparency in the process. You're hand signing documents without knowing what they're attached to. Junior associates are essentially just running paper back and forth and making copies and scanning stuff. And in this day and age, that seems like an area that's ripe for disruption, right? When you see things that are paper-driven, human-intensive, those are first key indicators that technology can help solve that problem. So once that transaction was done and we were lucky and fortunate to move forward with the Workshare opportunity and then Doxly, we knew we were going to go heads down and solve this problem as fast as we could. This is definitely an area where being first to market is key, but more importantly, having the experience that Litera has in the backbone of 24/7 customer support, being able to roll out software globally, we feel we can really solve this problem in a very fast and effective manner.
Hitting back on a few of those key pain points, it sounds like the process being very paper-driven, time-intensive, and maybe even a lack of clarity into the status of the project. And we heard some of the pain points from you, Avanish, and Haley. As a former lawyer, you experienced the other side of the coin. You were the one scrambling to pull all the signatures together, make sure all the packets were created and delivered to the client on time. So From your point of view, what would you say was your last straw, so to say, that motivated you to leave the practice and build a transaction management solution?
Yeah, I think the story for Doxley, started, when I was a senior associate. I'm trying to manage a number of different clients. I'm trying to help people close these deals. I'm also building a business and network, and you're managing all of these different aspects of a transaction. And as you move towards the end of a deal, everything is moving at really quick speed. Your clients need these deals to be done by a certain amount of time. And for us, we were trying to close a transaction, and we were accounting for every signature page, and we're sitting on the floor with these metal accordions and folders for every document, counting signature pages. And we were literally counting pieces of paper and putting them in the folders and making sure we had everything, and we were one short. One signature, one page that our client needed to sign. And this wasn't a unique experience. There's always something as these deals progress to the end. You're keeping track of sometimes hundreds of documents, hundreds of signatures for sure, and trying to understand where each of these things are and trying to get them all coordinated at the perfect moment that your client has set forward based on their own, kind of business goals. And so it's just chaos. It's just chaos that is high stakes. And so it just realized that when you thought about it, though, this chaos is actually supposedly organized by these checklists that we have that are supposed to be these roadmap for the transactions. But they're paper, they're Word documents. They're only as updated as the people have time to put into them. And so no one has clear visibility in where they are. And so I just decided that I needed to evaluate this, like what were the tools out there. I couldn't find anything. And then to Avanisha's point, I loved being a lawyer. Like, I loved my clients. I loved who I worked with. I liked the deals I got to do. And I just hated every single aspect that kept us from doing the things that we knew we needed to drive the best business outcomes for our clients. How could we put them in the best position, make the deal happen as smoothly as possible, and help them achieve their goals? And when you're spending time tracking down signature pages, you cannot hit all of those points at the very end. And so I left to build something that would allow people to focus on the reasons why they represent their clients in these big deals, while making it so they aren't distracted by very important but administrative components.
Yeah, and I think back actually to a meeting Haley and I had in London recently. It was our counsel that actually managed the transaction from K1HG, and I would say, as a partner, he's probably one of the more forward-thinking individuals in project management and task management for deals. And the amount of deals he can get done in a given period of time is probably limited by manpower and paper. With technology, one of the strongest partners in the world around private equity transactions could probably do more deals, provide a better service to more transactions than he does today, because they're restricted by manual processes, right? So is there a chance for us to allow some of the greatest lawyers and minds out there to do more work for more people because we can automate or remove some of the manual tasks? I think that's a driving factor that a person like Haley, had she had technology back then, would probably still be practicing law today and still servicing her customers in a very, very intimate fashion, versus today building software, which is still very intimate, but it's a different relationship.
And where we are now is we're used to this chaos. We're used to it. So how do we uncover the need to change what we do every day?
I think you see it from a couple different aspects. One, you see it from the next generation of attorneys. They do not understand why there needs to be this arcane rite of passage into doing things that make absolutely no sense. There's also the clients. A lot of firms are starting to represent, we've all had like great portfolios of representing, different types of businesses, but more and more, all these businesses, all these clients are driven by tech. They're SaaS companies. Their entire business model incorporates how to do things more efficiently. And then they look in the black box of what the legal work is that are done to move their transactions forward, and they have no idea if they're going to be on target to hit closing. And so they have expectations of how they do business, and they want to start to see that reflected in their relationship with their lawyer. So I think you're seeing clients start to move law firms towards that. You're seeing, the associates starting to, kind of push for these technologies to be integrated into their practice. But the fee pressures that override all of it, as clients want more visibility and transparency into what they're doing and what they're paying for, the write-offs and the realization rates that continue to drop dramatically have an impact on finding ways to be more effective with how you deliver client service so that you can be more profitable.
Great, thank you. So I think we're pretty clear on the challenges faced by law firms, large and small and medium, whether they be a managing partner, an associate, in-house counsel. Let's get to the solution. So I know that there is a way we could make a difference. And so Doxley and Workshare Transact came together as the Litera transaction management platform. It is designed to convert the manual, tedious process of managing all legal transaction types into a secure collaboration workspace, bringing control, peace of mind, and speed to the transactions. So let's break it down, how it can actually bring value to the firms. And Haley, I think this is a good opportunity for you to talk about what you've experienced being on that side of the deal.
Well, I think one of the biggest things is just to think about the products themselves and how how Litera Transaction Management will be used by customers within their workspaces. So when we look at deals in and of themselves, we kind of can look at the different components of how people are doing work. In the beginning, you're setting up a deal, bringing all of the different parties together, trying to get an understanding of who is involved, what actually needs to be done in order to kind of build this process. So it's really about building a roadmap. Traditional practices have done this with Word or Excel checklists. With Litera Transaction Management, our customers are now able to create a collaborative workspace. This can be purely for collaboration amongst their team, but can extend to collaborating with their clients and then all parties to the transaction. But what's important about this is whether it's a banking and financing transaction where you're maybe managing hundreds of conditions precedent that need to be satisfied in order for the loan documents to be finalized, or an M&A transaction where you're trying to understand, what are all of the assets that you're buying from this company, what are the liabilities you're taking on, how are you moving this to closing. At the core of what you're doing is really kind of working through this list of documents that need to be negotiated and finalized, and these tasks that need to be completed. So the first part of Litera Transaction Management is to set up that organization of what needs to happen in the deal. So we have some customers that, depending on deal type, will set it up to be like, this is week 1, week 2, week 3 of our transaction, and all the things that need to be accomplished within that time window. You have others that will have entire setups of, these are the conditions that need to be satisfied for this document to be finalized. And they'll map it all out, assign it to the different members that are part of the transaction to help move things forward. You have other deals that are very repetitive, whether they're for the company or for that transaction type with venture capital deals. So those are actually really the same sets of documents being executed, the same set of workflows. So what we can do with Litera Transaction Management is help you manage dynamic workflows that are representative of that specific deal and those specific circumstances. We can help you template out what's going to happen throughout the deal process, and then we can really give you the sense of what's going on every single week as you move forward toward those goals. So the first aspect of this and how our clients have been using this, our customers have used it, is to really think about, how am I going to manage the deal? How am I going to understand where I am in the process? Who needs to do what, and what still is out there to be able to be done. And what we've seen is when you can focus on that, you can actually reduce write-offs by making sure people are getting tasks done on time, reducing the calls to understand where you are in that process, and to give everyone, whether it's the attorneys or the clients, visibility into what's the live version of the deal so that we can always be mindful of what are those open issues. So that's really kind of the first component of what we're doing. Next phase of transaction management from the Litera transaction management platform is now moving into that closing process. We've really started to complete all the items on our roadmap. We've come to alignment on what are the key terms and final documents that we're going to be moving forward with. Now we need to bring that transaction to a close, whether that's getting approvals that all of the conditions have been satisfied. Sometimes in syndicated loans, you need 5 different banks to approve each different item as to where it is in the process. And collecting those and understanding where you are with each one of those can become a very tedious task. In other parts of the process, managing the signature process is incredibly time-consuming. You need to go into every single document, create the signature pages for each signer. Now, that signer can sign 40 to 50 different pages, and you're doing the same task over and over. It's repetitive. It's easy to forget to add a signer. It's easy at 3 in the morning to misspell a signer's name on 1 out of 400 pages that you've put together for them. And so this is a huge part of the process that we want to drive automation into it. Visibility as to where people are, but how do we take things that we need to do 40 to 50 times and automate them? In the Doxley deal where we sold to Litera, we ran everything on the platform. We created 183 signature pages, and I'm pretty sure I signed like 56 of them. So you would have had to type my name and everything about Doxley 56 different times in 56 different documents, print them, put them in packets, add DocuSign tabs. Those are the things that we're trying to avoid. We're trying to help people really streamline this process for each step of it, and then what that allows is you to be able to reduce the amount of time and increase the speed of closing. We have done extensive time studies on this in terms of each aspect of the process. We looked at our customers and potential customers and had them actually walk through us from a time perspective, even timing out the creation and collection of signature pages. And we discovered that that creation, that first step in the process of creating all of these pages in the documents is the most time consuming. So these are all the aspects that we worked with our customers to understand how do they do them, where can we automate them, and then we looked at how can we meaningfully provide those updates. Because here, I mean, one of the classic examples that our customers have faced is you're doing a deal with a private equity fund and the partner that you've drafted all 50 signature pages for is unavailable due to travel, and you now need to switch the signature pages to a different partner in that private equity fund. That requires opening every single one of those documents and changing the name of that person every time and re-putting him into all these different packets. So for Litera transaction management, how do we make it so you do that one time and perpetuate it against everything? So that's what we look at. We do time studies around the process, and then we figure out the ways that we can automate it against it. And then that finally takes us to the end, because at the end of the day, when you close a deal, you need to be able to deliver in order to facilitate that exchange of money, to close these transactions out. You need to deliver executed copies of the agreements. We need to bring those final documents together with all the signature pages so that we have an effective transaction, something that we can look back on and say, yes, everything was done, and we know what the current state of affairs are. And as lawyers, it's our job for our clients to be able to deliver to them a fully realized and effectuated transaction. And so having the ability to not only provide those documents at closing, but then to provide that final closing binder after the deal is done that represents everything that happened in that transaction is incredibly important. And a lot of times these binders are delivered months after the fact. And, so for a law firm, when you deliver something that was due, when the deal closes, in January, and you deliver the closing book in July, you're not going to get paid for all of the work that went into that. So how do we make it so that you can deliver these items at closing, so that you can give your customers the information they need, but so timely that that they understand, that everything is done and wrapped up. So it's an area that we focused on. How do we help people wrap up a deal and really reduce almost 80% of the time spent on preparing these closing documents and delivering them? Because at the end of the day, and Avanish, you've had the experience of working on these deals. These are a critical component to the client experience, and if you don't have them or you don't get them on time, it can impact how you view the things from a customer perspective.
Yeah, I think think about as a client, if you think about how much money you're spending in the transaction, and if you're a founder of a business and you're selling your company off, and a chunk of your payout is going towards attorney's fees to manage a transaction, you want to have a good experience for that dollar spend, I feel like, and you want to have a good result. And having to wait for a closing book, having to sign documents that you have no visibility into what it's for, are all things that I feel like for certain size transaction just feels inappropriate. It's not the experience you want to give to people. People deserve a lot more this day and age for the hard work they do, and I think that's why for us it makes sense to enter this space, because we feel like we can really solve these problems.
Yeah, I had a customer tell me at one point that you can negotiate things to the best way possible for your client. I can make sure that the terms of the deal are everything you want. It's almost like going to a great restaurant and having a great meal. Like, everything can be prepared to perfection. Like, the wine pairings are amazing, but if you wait 2 hours for the check, that's all you remember. So if your deal doesn't close on the day that you set to the goals that you have, so that you can deliver the press release that you have teed up and embargoed for the next day, if you can't do that, that's the thing the client remembers. Every other amazing point you have. So being able to facilitate the clients negotiating the best deal possible, and all of that is amazing, but how do we also close on time?
That's right.
Which ties us right back into the results that the firms who are using the Litera transaction management platform are already experiencing. So more collaboration, reduced write-offs, and just getting the work delivered faster as a result. Workflows are automated, and Haley, you mentioned that a lot in the signature automation process, and even reducing risk. Is there anything more that either of you would like to add on those?
I think all four of these things that we talk about in this space is pretty critical, not just to this workflow, but all workflow that Litera is currently involved with, right? We have to find ways to increase the experience that people have around this, around the legal environment, right? So as more and more companies are getting their internal GCs to become stronger, more effective, and more efficient, a law firm has to maintain that same level of speed in this space. And for me, these four things we talk about are the basics, right? These aren't the other things there's other things we're working on as a business that touch these four but aren't critical. But these four things are things that I think every partner meeting is talking about. How do we get more work done with the amount of people that we have today? How do we make sure we're not going to get sued for malpractice because we made a mistake? How are we going to, all these things are common day to day. I think as a business, we recognize that, and we talk about it openly with our teams and with our customers because it's so important to what we do.
I mean, we've even seen to the point where customers have actually started to mandate the usage of these technologies in their transactions. So every single venture capital deal that's done at, a specific firm will be done on this process, because not only does it make them more profitable, but it also reduces, it improves the relationship they're going to have with their customers. They want to be able to show that they're not reliant on these manual workflows, that they can deliver, their clients service in the way that they want to see them. And I think that's I think you just see it more and more. Clients are putting it in RFPs. What technology are you using? How are you going to work with us in a more efficient manner? And so these are things that now that most law firms have legal ops departments that are focused on the different processes and workflows, they're looking at how do they do these things, and they're expecting their lawyers that they're working with to help them achieve their own goals, which is focused on workflows, collaboration, and really improved processes.
It's a competitive advantage for two law firms that are sisters, right? One's across the street from each other. If one is using technology to better the experience and keep costs down, the other one isn't. At some point, all business will move to the one that's using technology. Obviously, our goal is that every law firm has technology, but today, right now, it's a strong competitive advantage to embrace these type of technologies.
So overall, I think what you're really seeing is that the experience that customers are having using technology is really improving the process. How do I, make it so that we are able to take things out of email, out of paperwork, and logistically bring them to a solution? So you can see that in the attorneys that are working on the deals. How am I actually able to manage things in a better way? And then to another extent, how am I able to do this faster? So as we move forward with these closings, as deals are trying to get done, being able to hit your clients' timelines to meet their needs. For some of the companies that are doing transactions, this is like them raising capital is them being able to pay their employees. These are very critical things, and the timing of them is really important. So we want to help people do that and do that more efficiently and faster while retaining all of the, critical components of the process.
Great. Well, Avanish, Haley, thank you so much for walking us through the challenges and solution and results of the Litera transaction management platform. That is it for our presentation today, our discussion. If anyone would like to see a demo of the transaction management platform that we have, please let us know. Just to go to litera.com/request-a-demo, and we will get that set up for you. Thank you.
Thanks.